And I think it's like, it's not just career, it's also your personal life as well, right? So, I mean, career is also obviously super important to find your people, to find your tribe, but it's also really important in your personal life. And I think it's, especially as you're going through your life, you're having kids or not having kids, and as your kids are kind of moving along, you find those other moms, right? And you're sharing what's going on in the lives of your kids, and there's always so much. But then also as you hit midlife, where I am right now, like finding those other people that are going through the same things that we are, and quite frankly, you need them, right? Because you're sharing information, you're learning something new, but it's all about shared experiences, right? Whether it's in your career or in your personal life, it's all about finding those people that have shared experiences. You absolutely learn from each other. And we're women, we want to talk, we want to share, we want to learn. I mean,
Hey there, how are you, possibility seekers? Today I have an interesting guest. Do you ever want to have a conversation with a girlfriend about the things you're not supposed to talk about? Did you ever want to have a conversation and just bare your soul on what is happening right now to me, to my body, to the industry, to female executives, like just a heart to heart, and you just don't find that person to have that conversation with? Then you need to stick around because I have that conversation. And her name is Kristen Fairback. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about her because we are going to have such fun today. So, Kristen Fairback is Executive Vice President of National Sales for She Media. She's responsible for overseeing sales strategy and revenue across multiple aspects of the business, including marketing services, influencer marketing, events, and programmatic. Kristen is known as the collaborative and consultative multi platform seller responsible for driving sales and sales strategy across a variety of verticals, including health and wellness, pregnancy and parenting, entertainment, CPG, beauty, and food. Prior to joining She Media, Kristen held positions as Senior Vice President of Lifestyle Sales at Everyday Health and WhatToExpect.com, publisher of digital and entertainment at Parade, and associate publisher at Entertainment Weekly and EW.com. Welcome, Kristen. How are you?
hi, Monique. So glad to be here.
I'm telling you, I'm so looking forward to this conversation. When we first met, I was like, oh, she's my people. There was nothing that we didn't actually chop up, right? So we're going to chop it up today. I want to talk to you first and foremost, just because you have had such a stellar career in publishing as a female media executive. I just want you to share with our listeners and our viewers what that journey was like.
Oh man, sure. So I love where I am right now in like my life and my career. She Media is amazing. I've been here for about 10 years now. And, we really talk a lot about everything that you just said, right? Like where we are in our lives, what's important to us, things that were once taboo, which are no longer taboo, or we're just trying to kind of break out of that mold. And like normalizing the conversations about women's health, wellness, and bodies. So I love that. But I've done a little bit of everything. I'm prior to this being at Everyday Health and What to Expect When You're Expecting. I mean, that was super cool. I actually wish I was there when I was pregnant.
Yeah, right. Don't we all? Like you read the book. That was the only book that we could read back in those days. You didn't have 14,000 influencers telling you what to do with your very pregnant body, which is actually probably good because I think I'd have paralysis analysis.
Oh man, it was like, I mean, honestly, yeah, it was good and bad. I'm like, okay, this would have been cool, but then again, I know a little bit too much now about what was going on, and yeah, might not have been too good. And then I spent a lot of time in entertainment. I love entertainment. I still love entertainment, so I've done kind of a little bit of everything, uh, but really from a very young kind of age in my career, like health, wellness, power of community, speaking open and honestly about kind of what's going on, in our lives is what I've always loved. So I'm always kind of drawn to those, situations where I could continue to do that. And so it's exactly where I am now, which is awesome. And I think part of this conversation, right?
No, it's so true. It's so true. So, just to give the listeners a little bit of context, before I started on Demand CMO, I was in publishing. I was on the trade side at Brand Week, and you were on the consumer side. And going up through publishing back in the day, and now even now, I give you so many kudos for sticking it out. And what was it like to be a? I mean, I know there's different schools of thought, but I wanted to pose to you, what was it like to be a woman in leadership then?
Oh man. So I mean, obviously, like not to date myself, but I've been doing this a long time. So, when I started out, there weren't as many women in leadership as there are now. I find myself now like surrounded by so many more women, but back then, I mean, I was at Time Inc. in like the 90s, and it was, mostly men, kind of sitting at the top of the ranks. I mean, that being said, there were a lot of awesome women there who probably had to like really fight to get there. It just, I wasn't working for them at the time. So for me, it was, I didn't see myself in management. What I mean? Like I was, and I worked really well with men. Like I learned how to do it. So I was comfortable working with men. But again, knowing now what I know, like I wish I knew back then.
What do you wish you knew back then? Let's go off script for a second here, girlfriend.
First of all, like one of the things I would do, like I did, there were some women in my life back then, but I would have paid closer attention. 1000%. What they're doing, how they're conducting themselves, like really looking for mentors that were in positions that I wanted to be. I didn't really look hard enough, right? Because you get very much like caught up in your day to day. It's very insular. I was mostly surrounded by men, and I didn't really search them out as much as I wish I did. It's kind of funny. I actually searched them out years later. One in particular, I actually worked for at Everyday Health. Like she was a manager of mine, like early on in my career. And if I would have known, like I would have really spent more time with her. I would have asked her more questions. I would have like listened better, really understood like how she got to where she got to. And I did search her out later in my career and I was like, damn, like missed opportunity when I was like a kid to, really like pick her brain and get inside there. Cause she's awesome.
How did it feel to do it years later? How did she respond to your, like, your overture of, "I feel like I might have not asked you my questions then, but I want to ask them now."
We had such a much better relationship. Like, it was a much more, like, trusting relationship, and we were super close. Like, she was one of the her name is Laura Klein. She was last at ShareCare and has just retired, although she's still involved, still has her hands in the business. I don't think she'll ever have her hands out of the business, but she was amazing, and I worked for her early on when I was at Woman's Day and when I was a seller at Woman's Day. And it was actually my first sales job after I'd left ad agencies. And, I was just kind of finding my way through it, but she was amazing. And like I said, when we kind of met up later on, she gave me a big job at Everyday Health and she was phenomenal. She was really phenomenal. And we were much, much tighter at Everyday Health because I actually like listened and asked a lot of questions and really dug in. She's super brilliant.
You know how I feel? I feel the same way about one woman. I don't know if you're gonna remember Mary Lou Quinlan.
Yeah, sure.
So I got to interview her just last week.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I said to her, we're both Gabelli MBAs, right? That's one of the connections that we had. And I said to her, I've been following you since I graduated college in 1985. I have had my eye on you for that long. And we missed each other because when she was at Air, I was at Adweek and da 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 da. And we missed each other a bunch of times at A&A and, all these events. And I met her at a women's summit that I spoke at, the Fordham Women's Summit, right? So I finally said to her, I go, can I just have you on my podcast? Because we have friends in common that I didn't even know we had friends in common, but whatever. I have looked up to her and thought she was like the early stage badass. And I finally got to meet her and it was so cool. And we just, I felt like I'd known her for years. Shared a lot of, common interests, common goals, common just wiring. It was so great. So the takeaway I think for the listeners is like, if you have somebody that you've been admiring from afar, get closer. Get up there. Get up in their face or get up and just reach out and say, "Let's have coffee, let's have dinner, let's have a drink," whatever. What do you think holds women back in business? Tell us your approach and experience from, corporate America as it were.
I actually think it's exactly what we're talking about right now. I think it is not searching out appropriate mentors, like the right mentors where you can really like learn from them and emulate what made them successful. I think it's really, really important to find those people that it doesn't even have to be one, it can be more than one, but to really, really find those people that you have respect for, that you think are great at what they do, and really just pick their brain and like saddle up beside them. And who doesn't want to mentor someone, right? I think that's the other thing too. I think a lot of young girls, and maybe not as much now as when I was young and coming up, I feel like they're just a lot more kind of open-minded. And
I think there's less fear.
yeah, I was going to say like stronger than we were when we were back then. I think they are better at it, at least better at it than I was back then. But who doesn't want to mentor someone? I feel like every woman now is like, yes, let me help you. I'm here for you. And I think you just have to ask.
Yeah, you don't ask, you don't get. I tell my kids that all the time. What's the worst that can happen? Somebody says no. You have a 50-50 chance of getting a yes.
Absolutely.
You have nothing to lose. So just asking gets you in the game. And if you don't get in the game, you have another game to play. It's another day, whatever. You're not going to lose anything. So it's great. Yeah. So what do you summarize for me? Because I think when we chatted, we had this notion of creating content in the service of women. We had discussions about what don't we talk about. I think we talked about the power of community touching in order to help them find their voice and their voices in business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's so important. I think we're talking about a little bit of it right now, right? With like the finding of your mentors, right? But I also think it's super important to find your peers, right? To like really find those like good group of peers that can really, really help you again build a sense of community. Remember, like, I mean, again, back in the day, word of mouth marketing was like a really, really big thing. But like, think about what that was. That was like, first party narratives. Women, it started like often with like women with moms like not knowing where to go for information and then telling their stories and other women finding those stories, and then it becomes viral.
Yeah, I think we need to elaborate on that because I think to your point, then you get women together and then it's where does the conversation go?
And I think it's like it's not just career. It's also your personal life as well, right? So, I mean, career is also obviously super important to find your people, to find your tribe, but it's also really important in your personal life. And I think it's, especially as you're going through your life, you're having kids or not having kids, and as your kids are kind of moving along, you find those other moms, right? And you're sharing what's going on in the lives of your kids, and there's always so much. But then also as you hit midlife, where I am right now, like finding those other people that are going through the same things that we are, and quite frankly, you need them, right? Because you're sharing information, you're learning something new, but it's all about shared experiences, right? Whether it's in your career or in your personal life, it's all about finding those people that have shared experiences. You absolutely learn from each other. And we're women, we want to talk, we want to share, we want to learn. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I wanted you to unpack a little bit for the listener what media is about and the kinds of topics that we're going to unpack today.
yeah, absolutely. So She Media, for those who don't know what it is a digital and live media or experiential women's lifestyle platform. We consist of a couple of websites that we own and operate. So it's really every single age and life stage of a woman, right? So we have Stylecaster, which is young women, millennial, Gen Z, fashion, beauty, relationships, style, lots of shopping. She knows, which is parents, right? So moms, not only speaking to them and what they're going through, but then also, some parenting advice as well. And then Flow Space, which we just launched, which I'm super excited about. And that's really, the science and stories of women's whole life health. So it's really those like later reproductive years through perimenopause and menopause. There's so many changes that are going on. And quite frankly, there's not a lot of information there to kind of help women through that journey. And we saw kind of an open space there and really dove into it. The other thing that's really exciting about She Media, and it taps into what we're talking about in terms of like community, is that we also work with about 3,000 other independent site owners as well as creators who have their own sites. And they're mostly women owned. So out of the 3,000, it's probably 85% woman owned. So we're really about helping women kind of, like I said, every age and life stage, what they're going through personally, but then also, we're helping them build their businesses.
How do you support those 3,000, 85% of those 3,000 women doing what do you provide to them?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of everything. So from my side, of course, it's, providing revenue, right? Driving revenue to their sites. So we'll work with brands to just, run regular media. But then we also tap into them as creators for brands, right? And the creator economy is so big right now, as we all know. But we were kind of like one of the OGs of influencer. Had a brand called Blog Her. And for anyone that's been around for a really long time, I mean, Blog Hers was really helping women, mostly moms sitting at their kitchen tables, like creating content, trying to figure out how do they make this a full-time job, right? Turn it into like a side hustle into like, I want to do this my whole life. And so we were 17 years ago, we started Blog Her. So we like to think that we were, one of the first who really helped women kind of, create this creator economy. So we help them in that way. We have a whole partner team that also helps them build their audiences, make sure their sites are running more efficiently and more effectively. So it's really on the ad side, but it's on the tech side as well.
That's what.
Helping them build audiences, which is amazing.
So so it's very interesting. I feel like I'm having someone is in the universe is sending me a very strong signal that I need to be more grounded in wellness, and that's because it's my passion, right? Wellness, fitness, nutrition, all that stuff. So last week we dropped an episode with Rosie McCann that had talking about eating for the the season of your life, not just the season of the year.
Yeah.
I had an OBGYN, now she's a GYN, but she's been a career OBGYN, Dr. Cindy Parnes, talk about hormone replacement, and I was always anti-hormone replacement until I knew better, right? She totally set me straight on that because it can be done really poorly and it can be done really, really well. And then I'm having all of these medically oriented, wellness oriented women come into my world, and I'm like, okay, somebody's sending me a signal that I need to be focused here. What is happening? What are we not talking about as women? Well, she's told me we're not talking about sex, we're not talking about aging, we're not talking about hormones, we're not talking about menopause, or we're not doing it well. What are you hearing?
Everything you just said. So I think what's happening now is like we've all kind of all at the same time have realized we need to start talking about this because there are, I was speaking to, you probably know Dr. Mary Claire Haver. She's was just on Oprah. She's been on our stages, both at South by Southwest, and we do Flow Spaces events throughout the year. And one of the things I remember her saying, because she's a practicing OBGYN, but menopause specialist, the number of hours that OBGYNs or anyone, HCPs, physicians in general, the number of hours that they get in medical school for menopause is like abysmal.
Same thing as they get for nutrition. It used to be a day, it used to be a week, it used to like, and now it's maybe a month, but it's terrible. There's no connection point. And if you go to Europe, it's a completely holistic, functional medicine model. Here, it's like my aunt can't get a full body scan on her issues, and she's got, whatever. She had to have the hip first, the knee next, the thing next, the arm then, the knee then like the shins, whatever. It's like one piece part at a time. Who's quarterbacking this stuff?
It's absolutely ridiculous. And I think, to that point, that's why I think there's a boom right now, right? Because we're all like, what's going on? Like, this is ridiculous, right? That the information isn't there. So there are a lot of people starting to produce the information, creating communities, having these conversations. But I often think it's also confusing for consumers, right? Because the information is coming at them in a million different directions, and they don't know how to make a plan. They don't know what the plan is, right? We know that strength training and exercise is super important. We know that eating right, you'll see. I mean, my feed is filled with high protein, high fiber, all of that. Then it's all the supplements, right? Like vitamin D plus omega 3s combined together is super important. You can go on and on and on and on. But like, that's why I love that we launched Flow Space and why we do these events, because we had an event at South by Southwest for 3 days of programming, all women's health programming in Austin, Texas. It was amazing. Every single program was full. And we did everything from talked about pharma, talked about HRT, talked about sex during midlife, talked about integrated medicine, everything. We covered the full gamut. And women were showing up in droves to hear the information and to talk. And people were hanging out and talking. And it was really unbelievable. So I think we just have to create more opportunities for us to be finding this information and to be able to openly and honestly have conversations about it.
Totally. Notwithstanding, because I was listening to a sports physiologist who's a woman, and it was the notion that she did 127 some odd studies on women, but in sports physiology, the data is male driven.
Yes, it is. But it also is for pharma. Only in the last, couple decades, if even that, have they started using women for clinical trials.
But they don't use over 50 postmenopausal women. So this is the problem, right? So I stay in touch with these kinds of data points because it's very relevant to my life and I'm very passionate about it. We are making decisions on our health based on data that is completely the antithesis of how our bodies act, walk, talk, produce, not produce, react to stress, react to exercise, react to food. So, cold plunging, like I just learned that, you know what? Cold plunging for women, don't bother doing it. You can do it at 55 degrees. 55 degrees has the same effect as a man doing it at 30 degrees. We don't operate the same way. Our cells don't react the same way. Our physiology isn't the same. So don't even do that. Intermittent fasting. Oh my God, my touch point. Like I've been intermittent fasting for years, thinking I'm doing myself a great service. I feel great, but in essence, there's stuff that's happening that it's counterintuitive to my protein build. So it's like this whole idea of now, and I'm a very well educated, well read, focused individual. I'm thinking about the average woman who's trying to raise 3 kids, be at a job, do whatever, and who's not in the place in her life where she can read as much as I can read or whatever. And now she's like, I don't even know how to get out of bed in the morning because all this information is conflicting.
It's so hard to navigate it. You're absolutely right. And I think every day I'll read this, then I'll read something that's like completely like a 180. I think you've got to find your people you trust, right? I mean, I think that's what it's all about. It's doing the research, listening to everyone. I mean, I will listen to lots of different points of view and then find the people that you think, okay, this works. And then I think you also have to try and fail and try again and until you find your way.
I think so. So people aren't talking. So what did you get? What did you get from the conferences, the conferences that you guys put on? Beside the fact that people feel validated because you're all in community asking similar types of questions. What are the resolutions? What are we talking about in terms of health and wellness? Whether it's after children or after menopause, or we'll stay on that for a second because I think it's interesting. What are you hearing, and then how are you responding to what you're hearing? Is what I'd like to know.
We're hearing a lot of what you just said, right? That there is more than just one way to take care of yourself at a certain age, right? Especially like midlife. There's more than one way. And it is all of these things in combination with one another that makes you feel your best, right? I think the other thing is it's not about anti-aging, right? Like at least what I've been hearing. It's about living your best, feeling your best, thriving at the age and the stage that you're in, right? I think so many, right? So many years ago, it was like anti-aging this, anti-aging that. Although we could like talk about NADs all day long, and that's a whole nother conversation and probably a whole nother podcast. But, you know, it's really like feeling the best that you can feel and also making sure that everything that you're doing, whether it's the strength training, every how you're eating, that's really not only for now, but it also is for the future, right? So to make sure that we are continuing to age the best that we can age as we continue through this midlife process. And I think it's the same thing for postpartum, right? Postpartum, so much stuff changes. Yeah, I'm a type 1 diabetic. So when I was pregnant, that was super tough for me, right? Because it was like incredibly controlled. Everything I did was so controlled. But other things arise when you're pregnant, right? So I all of a sudden got Hashimoto during my pregnancy. So I had to like deal with that was after I was pregnant. So I had to deal with that. And actually my physician at the time didn't even know. Didn't even know. I had to go to like 3 different doctors before I figured out that like I actually had Hashimoto. So I think a lot of things also do happen when you're pregnant, right? It spurs other types of potential you too, right? Potential dormant illnesses. So we need to be aware of that. We need to be aware of that because your body changes. Think about what you just did to it. But yeah, but you just you gotta pay attention. You have to pay attention. You have to talk to other people.
So it's the I think what we're saying collectively is we have to have the good dialogues even when they're uncomfortable, and you do need to also check the validity of the sources that you have, because I have this conversation with my mom all the time. It's like, "Well, where did you see that?" "I saw it online." Well, because it's online doesn't make it right or true or valid or at all qualified, because that person has no business giving you that advice. Right? It's sort of like, where do you get your information? Where do you get your data? Where do you get your news, research, etc.? Where is it? Is it a credible source? And can you rely on it with the data points? Because again, if they're building their sandbox based on data that's not relevant to a female, you need to be aware that that's not female generated data.
Right. Absolutely. And I think to your point, that's why whenever I'm talking to someone, wherever we're out in market doing our education, what you and I are talking about right now is we want to know the science behind it, right? We want to know, where did you get this information? So it was really important to us when building this brand that it was the science and stories of whole life health. Again, community, we're telling our stories. We want to hear from people, from women that are experiencing what we're experiencing, but tell me the science. I want to understand that. And sometimes, we'll cite different sources so that you have like a round picture of whatever statement we're making, whatever we're talking about. It's the science to go with it because we want to see that as women.
Yeah. Absolutely. I wanna know my fascia dilation, whatever. It's like, how does that work? And why am I reacting this way? Or as Rosie said, the other day, she's like increases like. So for instance, if you're having hot flashes, a lot of women have hot flashes in midlife, but they're still doing things that they don't realize are actually exacerbating the problem. Like you're taking hot yoga classes? Probably not a good idea, right? So you're layering your hot flashes on top of hot. You need to counter it with calming things. Go swimming, bring your temperature down. Go do something that's gonna bring your temperature down and even it out, right? So you have to do the opposite of what your body is sensing. So if you're cold and you're outside, don't have a glass of cold water, have a warm tea. It's some of it is common sense and some of it really isn't. And how do you encourage women to have the hard conversations, and who do you encourage to have that with?
Oh, that's a great question. So, I mean, honestly, anyone who's in the same place that you are at, right? I think, again, if it's at work, peers, always. Kind of the same thing, right? Like other people in midlife. Like I find myself having this conversation more and more and more. And the funny thing is I think there are so many women that want to have the conversation, but they don't really know who to have it with. And there's a couple things. First of all, like if you're going to go like the medical route, right? Your OBGYN might not be the right person for you. Go find a medical expert. Find somebody who is a menopause doctor. Find somebody that's an integrative or functional medicine person, right? Go find somebody who is not just your OBGYN who delivered your babies, because chances are that person is not going to be able to give you the information that you need. And I can say that from like personal experience. Like when I was first like, things were happening, I went to my OBGYN and I walked out with like a prescription of Zoloft and a variety of other things. And I was like, I've never taken Zoloft in my life. I'm going to start taking it now. Like, why? So, you got to search out the right people for you on the medical side, the ones that know and understand menopause. You got to find them. The second thing is anytime that I've started to talk to somebody, I could be standing on like the sideline of my kid's game and be like, ooh, hot flash. And all of a sudden the person next to me is like, I know. Oh my God, what's going on? And then all of a sudden you're having a conversation. It's almost like they're just waiting for somebody to say something so that you can then like dive into it. And then, by the way, that's the conversation for the whole rest of the like tournament weekend. We're talking about hot flashes and body changes and what we're eating now and what doctors we're going to. And so you just have to, you'd be surprised. I think you'd be surprised, right? Like just speaking to other women that are going through it, and they all want to give recommendations. If something that's working for me, I am 1000% going to give that recommendation to somebody else.
I am absolutely a sharer of information, which is one of the reasons I started this podcast. I'm like, look, if I have a hack or a tip or a trick that can help somebody else, I am so all about it. Rock on. Like, I'm a sharer. Other people are like, I'm not sharing my secret sauce. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. That's not how you get to heaven. Okay.
No, you got to share. You got to be a sharer, especially when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, because I think, there's so much data and there's so much knowledge that is right now not being consumed or noted or captured, really. So it's up to us to amplify what it is that is relevant and realistic, right? So anyway, I'm going to just pivot for a second. What's the best career advice you've ever been given?
Okay. So it is really simple. And sometimes I think the best advice is like the stuff that's like sitting right in front of you and is just the simplest ever. So I was a first time manager, and that's the loneliest job in creation, right? I think anybody will say that, right? Like you go from, all right, again, I'm a salesperson, all my sales, my team, and then I'm promoted, right? So now you're the one that's been elevated, right? So those people are kind of, they're you walk into a room and now they're not talking, right? Like it's become that. I'm like, oh no,
I'm that girl now.
I'm that girl now. And then you have all your senior leadership team that you're reporting to, and you're not quite there yet. And it's like a big squeeze, right? Like you're getting pushed from the top, you're getting pushed from it's like crazy, and you're by yourself. So it's overwhelming, I think, right? So I kind of didn't really break down, but I was like, okay, I can't, there's so much I have to do right now. I have a list that's like 100 things long. So it's kind of like two parts. So I went to my manager and I was like, look, I'm just going to be honest. I'm struggling right now. Like I got these things I want to accomplish and I just don't know where to start. And he's like, make a plan and work the plan. You're not going to accomplish everything, right? Think about the things that are the most important to you, the things that you absolutely have to achieve right now, and then create a plan. And then be incredibly diligent about working through that plan. Whatever that plan happens to be, whether it's a 30, 60, 90, kind of old school, well, we still do that today, or whether it's your own timeline, but think about it and then just really be diligent about working that plan. And it's the simplest advice I've ever been given, but I apply it to everything that I do, right? If I have an incredibly busy, my oldest son is a senior, he's graduating from college. if I have an incredibly busy, crazy spring with him, and I'm like, I have to book graduation rooms. I have to find out what gift I'm giving him. I got to show up at all his sporting events. Like, it's a long list of things in addition to what your full time day job is. Just make a plan. Just make a plan for everything and then follow the plan. So that's the simplest, but I swear best advice. And I got that advice 30 years ago.
So when you just to let's unpeel the onion on this one, shall we? All right. So when you say get a plan, put a plan together, follow the plan, it sounds so simple.
So simple.
Right. But let's get real about that. What does that look like tactically for the person listening going, yeah, that sounds great, but what the hell does she do?
Oh man. So honestly, sometimes honestly, it's make a list. Like literally, when I say it's so simple, but I think at the end of the day, what's most important is you have to hold yourself accountable. That's really what it is, right? It's holding yourself accountable for completing whatever that plan happens to be. That's so important, accountability. So, whether that means making yourself a list of these are the things that I have to do, and this is the order of importance. When are you going to do them? When are you checking back in with yourself? When do you want to have it completed by? And then each thing might literally be like everything is a step. It could be I have to write this essay. It could be I have to reach out to this person to set up coffee to continue networking, to continue to build my career. But I think the accountability part of it is really important. You have to hold yourself accountable. So whether that means I'm putting it on my calendar and every Friday, this is what I'm doing, or whether it's like I am blocking off an hour every Monday, like generally Monday mornings I don't book anything on Monday unless I have to. And it is my time of day that I plan out my week, It is all of my everything I'm going to do from a career perspective, I plan out on Monday mornings. And I hold myself to it. And I think you have to, especially when you're juggling a million things. Hold yourself accountable. Put it on your calendar.
Love that. What's the worst career advice we ever got here?
Okay, so this is probably something that people are going to disagree with, but hear me out. So, just follow your passion and everything will work out and you'll make tons of money and blah blah blah. What if your passion is something you're not good at? Like, I think that listen, if it is something that you can actually turn into a career and you can be really good, you're also really good at it, by all means, awesome. Follow your passion. But if it's something that is potentially not attainable, or it's something you're really not, whatever it is that you have to do, if you don't have that skill, I think you have to be honest with yourself about like what is it that you really think that you're good at, and if it lines up with what a passion of yours, amazing. But I don't know. I think it's got to be more than that. So I don't know how many times people have said, or I have read, just follow your passion and the money will follow. The other day I was listening to like a Scott Galloway podcast, somebody that I love to listen to. And he actually said something similar. And I sent it to my older son, and it's popped up on my social too, probably because I've listened to it now and sent it to a bunch of people. So now it just keeps following me around. But it was literally something to that effect, which was really find something that you're good at and that you really believe you can be at the top of your game in, right? Like if you believe that you're good at this and you can be at the top echelon of whatever that career or that skill happens to be, do it. And I think that's true.
So I don't disagree with that at all. I think where people give meaning to this, and we are meaning making machines, as my coach used to say. It's not that you shouldn't be in a job or a career that you hate, clear, that you're not value system oriented with. That is a clarity. I'm clear about that. And I'm also clear two things can be true at the same time. My new expression is that you don't always have to get all of your joy from one place.
Mm-hmm.
For me, if you're passionate about women in philanthropy, I was just talking to Hope Gallagher Ogletree, who I love, and who's she does development. Well, that gives me joy, but that doesn't mean that it needs to be my full-time gig. Or if this gives me joy, that doesn't mean that has to be my full-time gig. I can get joy in and out of my 9 to 5 or my 8 to 7 or my, as a business owner, it's 24/7, but I can get joy elsewhere. So follow your passion does not mean that you have to monetize your passion.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Look, I mean, this podcast isn't making me any money. It's giving me tremendous joy. So I'm following my passion. Now, if I had to pay the more, I don't know. If I had to pay the bills with it, I'd be screwed. So here I am. I'm a poster child for your theory, Missy. Anyway, so what would you tell your 30-year-old self if you could have a conversation with her right now?
Oh God. Okay. I would tell her you don't have to have all the answers. Like I often felt when I was younger that if somebody asked me a question and I didn't know the answer, I would panic. No, you don't have to have all the answers. And in fact, you should be aligning yourself with people that probably do and find out from them. You don't have to have all the answers. And I think I spent a lot of time when I was younger, feeling oh my God, it's a weakness, or I feel less than if I don't know the answer to every single question. You're never going to. Let yourself off the hook. Surround yourself with people who add to your knowledge base, who can help you continue to grow and feel really confident in that. So that's what I would tell my 30-year-old self, because I think now I do that. When I hire people, I want to make sure I'm hiring people that are not me. I don't need another me walking around. I need somebody who's very different, who's going to bring something to the party that I don't have. And then you learn from each other, and it's so fulfilling. And let them shine. Let them shine. Let them do their thing. So that's what I would tell my 30-year-old self.
Love that answer. Great. So give us any parting words of advice or whatever you've got, because I'm all ears. What do you want to leave the audience with?
I think we spent a lot of time right now, talking about community and finding your people, finding your mentors, finding your peer group in not only your career, but every aspect of your life. And I would say that has been the most fulfilling to me. And I didn't really get good at it really until I was older. And I mean, I always had a lot of great friends when I was younger. I always did align myself with my peers. I didn't do as good of a job in the mentor, in the mentor area, but I started to when I, the last however many couple of decades. But I would say that's the most important thing. Find your community, find your tribe, find your people. And, it doesn't have to be 50. It could be 3. It doesn't matter. But as long as you have that really, really core group, then you'll be good.
Love that. Thank you. Kristen Fairback, you're the best. I could hang out with you all afternoon.
This is so fun. This was such a great, fun conversation. I love this.
Well, it's about to get more fun when we post it on everywhere we can. And we're going to tell everybody your secret sauces and all that stuff. Listen, people listening and watching and all of that, think about these conversations. Share this episode with somebody you know that will appreciate it or needs to hear it. We're here for you. Let us know what you think. Give us a rating. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a little love. Comments are always appreciated. And as I always like to say, make it a great day. Thank you, Kristen Fairback, and thank you for listening. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Possibilities with Monique de Maio, where we unpack life as a female mover and shaker. If you like the show, please consider liking it, or better still, subscribing to it and leaving us a rating. It truly does help. Also, you can pick up my book, The 7 Secrets to Creating a Life You Love, a practical guide for women in leadership. You can find the book, other episodes of this podcast, and how to stay in touch at moniquedemaio.com. DEMAIO. I look forward to seeing you again soon. With gratitude, Monique.